says, "Did you hear about Kimberly?" And I said, "What about Kimberly? I just saw her." She says, "I don't know, but I've heard that Kimberly has died."
If you could say anything to Kimberly, what would it be?
"So you had my baby. And it means so much to me. There's nothing more precious than to raise a family. If there's any doubt in your mind, you can count on me." And that's just a day that will never leave my mind.
You got knocked the out, man!
What's going on, y'all? What it is. So let's go ahead and slide on this topic. So as I promised you guys, I was going to watch the documentary, The Making of a Bad Boy, and I was going to come back and give you a review. So here I am. So the first thing I want to say about the documentary, I thought that it was well put together. They did a fantastic job by getting in contact with some of Sean's friends from his childhood, like Rich Parker, Lee Davis, and also Ron Lawrence. But the star of the show when it came to Diddy's friends and closest friend when he was growing up, it was Tim Patterson. And as a matter of fact, the documentary starts off with Tim talking about how him and Sean connected when they were younger. Now, I do want to say this about Tim. It seems as though that he's in a very secluded area. He's living in a log cabin and it's very, very much off grid. And later on in the documentary, he did express that he felt like he needed to get away. He felt like that people were trying to get him, trying to take him out. He was tired of being extorted and things of that nature. Although he didn't go into great detail about who was behind it and what the situation was, it seems as though that this man was running for his life. And at the end of the day, he alluded to the fact that he had two choices between fighting or taking flight, and he chose to take flight. And again, even though he didn't expound further, I just found it funny how he put it out there, how he said it. And it just said to me, and I could be wrong, y'all, that he was saying that maybe he was running from Diddy without saying he was running from Diddy, because according to him, they hadn't talked since 1999. But anyway, Tim talked about the fact that his mom and Diddy's mom knew each other. And when Diddy's dad got murked in the street, unfortunately, because he was running around with Nicky Barnes and he ended up selling to an undercover. And then once he got popped, he started snitching on the crew. And that's how Diddy's father got taken up out of here, because he was snitching on the crew. Right? And so that prompted Janice and Diddy to move to Mount Vernon, which is about 4 hours and some change from Harlem, New York. And so Tim goes on to explain that Diddy's mom approached his mom and asked them to move to Mount Vernon, and they could basically take the lower level of the house. And so he explains meeting Sean for the first time. He calls him Sean, never referred to him as Diddy. He said meeting him for the first time, he knew that this kid wasn't a normal kid. He was in Gucci this and designer this and that, or whatever the case may be. Also, Diddy attended a private school growing up, and he was known as the rich kid in the neighborhood, right? Tim also talked about the fact that he had to intervene and help Diddy on a multitude of occasions from being bullied, because Diddy would never stand up for himself, and he was getting bullied on a daily basis. And Gene Deal also echoed that sentiment, like Diddy was scary back in the days, because Gene said that he had formed a gang back in 1989 called the Same Gang, and Diddy wanted to join this gang. So Gene set it up so where there were some kids from the neighborhood was going to rough up Diddy, you know what I'm saying, so he could pledge his allegiance to this gang, so to speak. And so basically when Diddy came around, the kids went to Diddy and tried to get at him, and Diddy ran. He got the hell out of Dodge. Now, for the most part, his friends on the documentary, they were kind of taking up for him. They didn't know Sean to be this aggressive dude that the media is painting him out to be. And of course, you can't deny it when you look at the Cassie video. So they claim to be pretty shocked at his behavior and who he has become as a man, and to see him in the position that he is in today, being locked up behind bars facing charges. Now, one of his friends, and I believe it's Ron Lawrence, and I'm giving you all this without any notes, okay? So I believe it was Ron Lawrence who defended him in regards to the stampede that took place in 1991. Actually, the date was December the 28th, 1991. And this was a celebrity event, basically a basketball event that featured people like LL, Mike Tyson, Heavy D, and all the proceeds from that event were going to go to the AIDS Foundation. But anyway, what they're trying to say is that this was an unfortunate ordeal for Diddy because they're trying to blame it like it's all his fault, when in all actuality, they're saying that the radio station WBLS is at fault here because they was promoting the event like the venue actually held up to 10,000 people, when in reality, the venue only held up to 2,700 people. Now, according to Diddy's friend, he's saying that Diddy was in shock that this was taking place, and in fact, he witnessed Diddy administer CPR to someone who needed medical attention, and Gene Deal said that anybody who said that Diddy was administering CPR to someone who needed medical attention is a damn lie. Now, a young lady by the name of Sonya Williams, who unfortunately lost her life during this stampede, well, her brother Sonny Williams got a call to come up to Diddy's office. So when he gets there off rip, Diddy offers him $50K, right? And so he's upset with Diddy, like, yo, my sister passed away and you're the one that gave her the ticket and she didn't make it in and she's no longer here with us and you're gonna offer me $50K. So he says initially he stormed out of his office, and then he started to think about things and said, well, maybe if I take this money, Diddy may help me with the foundation in honor of my sister later on. And so he turned around and he took the offer. Ultimately, as it pertains to this case, the families ended up settling out of court and Diddy only gave them $40K. And according to the families, he never apologized. And so shortly after that, Diddy started gaining his notoriety as a music mogul in the music business, right? And he was able to ink a deal with Clive Davis for $55 million. So Diddy started to feel himself like he was untouchable. There's also a former employee for Bad Boy that had their voice altered for the documentary that called in via phone. And we don't know if this is a male or female, but they talked about the times being in the studio with Diddy, and Diddy would pull out his phone and show them video of two men being intimate with one another, saying that this is what you got to do to make it in the industry. They also talked about the times where Diddy would send people out from his team to recruit girls and things of that nature. They also recounted stories of Diddy just going off in the studio, going off on people, and it wasn't until they started recording the situation where it seemed to calm Diddy down because Diddy didn't want to be recorded acting in that way. Diddy's childhood friend also talked about the fact that even though Diddy had money as a child or whatever, that he had a rough upbringing, and it was all based off of the fact that his mom was running this open house. Basically, there would be all sorts of people in there doing drugs, and also it was nothing for them to come out their room and see people just walking around exposing all of their glory. The childhood friend also expressed the fact that Diddy was often around gay people all the time. It was a free-flowing house. His mom was all about it. All the action that could go down, it went down at Diddy's house. The documentary also exposes Diddy's chief of staff by the name of Christina Coram and another person that worked alongside Diddy by the name of Shane Pierce for being individuals that would go out and recruit people to bring back to Diddy. And I don't have to go into deep detail to tell you why they were bringing these individuals to Diddy. We already know that. That's common knowledge. And so they touched on the situation with the female by the name of Ashley Parham. And we've already discussed that incident on this channel. She was the lady out there in California that was chilling at a bar, and Shane approached her and said, yo, I think Diddy would like you. Ended up FaceTiming with Diddy. She goes back to Diddy's place, and then there were several guys there. She ends up getting essayed in R, and she was violated with a remote. You know where, right? I don't have to go deep into that. But at the end of the day, she ends up breaking loose. She gets to the sheriff's department and she files a police report or sheriff's report, however they do it, right? And basically nothing happened. And NBC reached out to that particular sheriff's department in California to try to get those receipts, and they declined to send anything or to speak on the matter in its entirety. But anyway, they talked about the white parties that Diddy would throw in the Hamptons. They showed pictures of him and Donald Trump. Donald Trump did attend Diddy's parties and things of that nature, but it was a lot of celebrities there, right? Your A-listers. And so it was mostly them saying, hey, I didn't see anything that took place at the party, but you never know what went down at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and that's called the after party. So a lot of people are saying that there was nothing that they saw that was out of place or out of order during the normal hours of the party. And so it seems as though that his friends, that's the story they're sticking by, okay? And everybody else, all the celebrities always say, right, when it pertains to Diddy, I left early. I left the party early. That's their story, and they're sticking by it. Now, another interesting dynamic about this is Al B. Sure. He's talking about there's a lot of things that he can't talk about it because of the legalities of the situation. So it seems as though that Al B. Sure is going to go after Diddy legally. That's what it sounds like within the documentary. Al also talks about the fact that when Diddy came into Uptown Records and saw Kim Porter for the first time, and the fact that Diddy said that he want a pretty girl like that, but he said the funny thing about it is that Diddy walked in with his then girlfriend at the time and baby mama Misa, and Al B. Sure pointed and said, yo, you got one, and it's Misa. And he just found that interesting, and he felt that Diddy broke the code, the brotherhood code, right? Even though they weren't the best of friends, he said that you knew that that was my woman. Why are you going to try to intervene and take her from me? Al also reiterates that Kim is the reason that he was deprived from his son Quincy, and it made him look like he was an absent father. Kim warned him on a multitude of occasions to stay away because Diddy might have him deleted. Al also talks about a messy publicist that was pushing the narrative that he was an absent father as well. Now it seems as though that Al is going to reopen the case about Kim Porter to find out what really happened to her. That's what he said in the documentary. Al also alluded to the fact that there could be some type of investigation that's going on behind the scenes in regards to how and why he fell ill and why he was in a coma for 6 months. And he said that he kept a record. He has a record of the names that was sent to him to try to set him up. So basically he's saying, yo, watch out. I got everybody that tried to do some type of harm to me. Now, some of Jaguar Wright's clips made it to the documentary, and those were the clips basically where Jaguar was questioning like everybody around Diddy had passed away, from Kim Porter to Biggie, Heavy D, Andre Harrell, and so forth and so on. And the fact that the only two people that are still living from that Uptown era of music is Al B. Sure and Diddy. So that's what made it to the documentary. And also Gene Deal talked about the fact that it was Diddy's mom that caused him to quit working for Diddy in the first place, because she was trying to order him around and he was telling her, no, I'm not going to do this. Basically that he was there to protect her son. And even Diddy got frustrated with his own mom trying to order Gene around. And one day Diddy was just like, yo, I'm so tired of my mom bugging you and trying to boss you around. And Gene said that, yo, I am too, and just walked out the door and never looked back. But anyway, attorney Lisa Bloom was featured in the documentary comparing Diddy's actions to Jeffrey E. Also, civil attorney Ariel Mitchell was in the documentary talking about all the lawsuits that she's filed against Diddy. They also talked about that dude Courtney Burgess, who was partly responsible for that fake memoir coming out about Kim Porter exposing Diddy's darkest secrets. And it was much of nothing to talk about there because we've already talked about that on this channel. Also, Gene Deal recounted a story where when they were talking about has Diddy ever been physical with Kim Porter by putting paws on her, and Gene said that he could remember getting a call to go to St. Luke's Hospital and Kim Porter was there with knots and bruises all over her face. They also talked about Don Richard being denied food, water, sleep, and also the fact that Diddy allegedly SA'd her, and Diddy's camp is saying that Dawn is lying and basically she fabricated those stories to boost her music and press tour. So they're saying it was all about monetary gain for Dawn. But anyway, I feel like I covered the gist of this documentary, and if there's anything that I didn't touch on, we talked about it extensively already on this channel. And so I feel like the point that they're trying to drive home is that Diddy was greatly affected by his childhood. Even though he grew up with money and went to private schools and was in designer this and designer that, when you take into account that Diddy lost his father at a young age and his mother was basically running a 304 house, it definitely could have had a psychological impact, a negative psychological impact on Diddy's life. But at the end of the day, there's no excuses, because there's people that have been brought up in certain situations, very, very bad situations, even worse conditions than Diddy, that have grown up and separated themselves from that and have become successful. But anyway, I'm gonna let this go right here. I want you guys to drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about this review. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and if you're new here, consider subbing to the channel. I'll get with you guys later. Peace.